Today in the news, Governor Abbott renews a virus disaster declaration, and Congress investigates Fort Hood following soldiers' deaths, and the City of Dallas's hospital capacity report. Today is September 9th, 2020, and this is Dallas Weekly News. Hello, I'm your host, Patrick Washington, and this is Dallas Weekly News. Governor Greg Abbott has extended the state's disaster declaration in response to the coronavirus pandemic as the state approaches nearly 13,500 deaths. When Abbott first issued his emergency order on March 13th, state officials hadn't yet reported any confirmed deaths. Abbott has renewed his order every 30 days since and did again on Monday. Although hospitalizations for COVID-19 have steady declined since a peak in mid-July, Abbott said Texans should remain vigilant in helping to prevent virus spread. Texas health officials on Monday reported the state had had more than 640,000 virus infections, with about 3,500 currently hospitalized. The true number of cases in Texas is likely higher because many people haven't been tested, and studies suggest people can be infected and not feel sick. For most, the coronavirus causes mild to moderate symptoms such as fever and cough and clear up over 2 to 3 weeks. For others, especially the older adults and with existing illnesses, it can cause pneumonia and fatality. Congress will launch an investigation into sexual assault, disappearances, deaths, and the leadership's response at Fort Hood after 28 soldiers stationed at the U.S. Army base in Texas died this year. Democratic Representative Stephen Lynch of Massachusetts and Jackie Speer of California sent a letter to the Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy requesting documents and information on the deaths. Lynch chairs the Committee on Oversight and Reform Subcommittee on National Security, and Spears leads the Committee on Armed Services Subcommittee on Military Personnel. According to the letter, the subcommittees will jointly investigate if recent deaths, quote, may be symptomatic of underlying leadership, discipline, and morale deficiencies throughout the chain of command. The letter said that according to the Army data, there were an average of 129 felonies committed annually at Fort Hood between 2014 and 2019, including cases of homicide, sexual assault, kidnapping, robbery, and aggravated assault. The members of Congress cited the deaths of Specialist Vanessa Guillen, who, according to federal officials, was bludgeoned to death at the Texas base in April by a fellow soldier, and Private Gregory Morales, whose remains were found in June while searching for Guillen. Morales was reported missing in August of 2019. The letter also names Private Mejor Morta and Sergeant Elder Fernandez, whose deaths are still under investigation, and the homicide investigations of Private Brandon Scott, Rosecrans, Specialist Freddie Dela Cruz Jr., and Specialist Shelby Tyler Jones. According to the letter, Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy, during an August visit to Texas, stated that Fort Hood had the highest, most cases for sexual assault and harassment and murders for our entire formation of the U.S. Army, end quote. Representatives Lynch and Spears said they will report the conditions and circumstances that could have contributed to the soldiers' death and seek justice on behalf of the soldiers and families, quote, who may have been failed by a military system and culture that was ultimately responsible for their care and protection. The family of Guillen, whose remains were found on July 1st, has rallied from Texas to the doors of the White House calling for a congressional investigation. Natalie Callahan, who represents the Guillen families, said she is thankful that Congress has agreed to the demands to investigate. And now the City of Dallas's hospital capacity report. This has been Dallas Weekly News. I'm your host, Patrick Washington, and you can find these and more stories at dallasweekly.com. And of course, follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And of course, as always, if you can, please stay home, stay safe, and we will see you again tomorrow.